Okay, so you're buying a house in Arizona, but you don't know if you should buy a house in Arizona with a HOA, homeowners association. Well, I'm going to deep dive and give you some tips on buying a house in a HOA, and then you can make a better sound decision whether it's a pro or a con for you. Let's go. Hey, welcome back, my friends. Please don't forget to subscribe. Click that bell to get notified when we drop our next video. Now, I'm gonna deep dive in some tips, whether you should buy in a HOA here in Arizona for the first time home buyer or repeated home buyer. All the properties that we've actually lived in have been in an HOA. We don't mind making the payments, and I'm gonna give you the reasons why we choose to live in an HOA rather than not an HOA. Okay, so tip number one is if you're going to buy a house in an HOA, you're gonna have upfront fees when you're buying. You're gonna have fees as transfer fees and capital improvement fees. Now, transfer fees is basically just taking the paperwork from the seller and transferring it to your name, the buyer. Okay, so that is a transfer fee, and it just depends. It could be $200, $300, $450, depending on the community you're gonna live in. You also have capital improvement fees. Okay, so this is a fee upfront for the transaction on capital improvement, meaning that they're improving the community. Okay, so part of your HOA goes to the capital improvements, meaning if you need new streets, payments, if you live in a gated community, work on the gates, if you have a small park, the grass, the playgrounds, etc. So that's what capital improvements are mostly for. So when you're buying a house in a HOA, you're gonna need a little bit more money for down payment, for closing costs, because you're gonna need some of these HOA fees. Now, these fees are usually typically paid for by the buyer, okay? The seller, they pay for the disclosure fee, okay? So ultimately, the rule in Arizona, the law is the seller pays for the disclosure fees, and usually the buyer pays for the capital improvement fees and for the transfer fees. Okay, so living in an HOA, I feel the homes are probably a little bit more cleaner than living in a non-HOA. And the reason why is because some people call them the HOA Nazis, but I just, there's people that come and they drive around the neighborhood, okay, and it could actually be the homeowners in your neighborhood who took over the HOA, the board of the HOA. Now, they walk the neighborhood, they say like, okay, this house, it needs to be painted. Okay, it hasn't been painted in for quite some time. It's really faded. The garage is faded. That front is faded. It's just getting beamed by the sun. And that happened to us is we didn't get flagged by the HOA, but we noticed our house, it was getting faded because the sun was just beating on it on the front. So me and my wife said, okay, let's get the house painted. But in order for us to get it painted, you have to send in an architectural draft to the HOA, the board of HOA, and they have to approve the paint color and the paint scheme. So that's one thing of living in an HOA is your neighbor on the left side, the right side, in front of you, or in your neighborhood, you can't just go paint your house. You actually have to fill out a form and request like, hey, my house needs to be painted. Can I paint it this color? And then they look at the schemes, they say, yes, you can, or no, you can't. Okay? You're just gonna depend on the HOA and the board. And you just have to pretty much negotiate with the HOA. Another thing is, if they flag your house, they're gonna give you 6 months to paint your house if it's faded. If they see your front yard landscaping is not done and it looks like weeds everywhere, they're gonna come in and they're gonna fine you. They'll send you a letter first to get it taken care of. If you don't, then they start fining you. Okay, so I really do like the HOA because it doesn't allow my neighbors to paint their house purple, pink, and orange. And it keeps the community very nice and clean. Also, when you live in an HOA, you have to budget the monthly payment that you're gonna be paying out of your pocket to the HOA. Now, living in an HOA, it all depends if you're non-gated or gated. Okay, non-gated communities, you're roughly about $45 to about $86, can be $100. In a gated community, you're gonna be in, the $125 to $300 range per month on top of your monthly payments. As far as the house, your mortgage payment. So be mindful that, hey, HOA is a separate cost It is not tied up to your monthly payment, which is your principal, interest, taxes, insurance. The HOA is a separate amount. So you have to tie that in like, hey, I'm going to be giving out $65, $80 extra. So can I afford that? You know, it might be better to live in an HOA because the houses are a little nicer, the yards are maintained, the community is maintained. And I honestly think that the values of the house increase by living in an HOA because you're not allowed to do a lot of stuff that you want to without getting approval first. And the reason why they want to get approval is because they don't want you painting your house pink, orange, and purple. And they kind of want to make it, you know, symmetric what the community is. You can always add additions, rooms, porches, pools, patios, etc. You just got to send in the plans, talk to them, communicate with them, negotiate with them, and you'll be fine. It's just that they don't want you building a 3-story garage in the back of your yard if it's not consistent within the community. Another tip is living in an HOA is, depending on how big your subdivision is and how many homes are, is they have HOA like parties, okay? You can go to the HOA meetings and listen to the concerns and express your concerns with the HOA and what they can do better and what is really needed for the community. Also, you know, they have yard sales. If you have a park, they have barbecues, and you get to like mingle with your neighbors, get to know them, throw parties, you can interact with them, especially if you're like a family like me, as well as you have children, is you can actually, you know, find people with children, you know, that are in the age group of your children, so they can have sleepovers, pool parties, maybe babysit here and there, so you as a husband and wife can go on a date night, etc. And if you don't have any kids, well, you still can find, you know, that buddy or that girlfriend in the neighborhood that you can hang out and go have wine and dinner with, or have a beer and watch some football, basketball, whatever sport you like. So living in an HOA kind of gives you the ability to communicate with your neighbors when you go to the meetings, okay, and find somebody that you might want to hang out with, especially if you go out of town on vacation. You need somebody to look at your, you know, keep an eye on your house while you're out of town, just to drive by and make sure everything's okay and everything's kosher while you're out of town on vacation. So it gives you the opportunity to do all that and the capability of knowing who's in the subdivision and knowing your neighbors. So buying a home with the HOA, like I said, it can be gated or non-gated. Okay, gated communities are really, really cool because nobody can enter the gates without a code or without calling you. So it's kind of like a security place where you can feel comfort, safe, that nobody can go in and out without a code or without calling either you or your neighbors. So those prices are a little bit higher in gated communities, but even the non-gated communities are really, really nice because some of them have the neighborhood watch program where they have meetings where people walk around the neighborhood to make sure nothing is happening in their neighborhood. So that's kind of the good aspects of buying a house with an HOA. No HOA, like they're going to be older homes. You know, your neighbors can do whatever they want to their front yard. They can paint their house pink, purple, blue, whatever, black, whatever they want to. But living in an HOA, I think it really keeps the community clean. It keeps it symmetric with all the other homes. If your yard is not well taken care of up front, they'll send you a letter. You can't park your car within your front yard or on the roads for more than 48 hours. They just don't want a lot of vehicles there. You can't work on your vehicles in the driveway. They don't want oil stains on the cement. So as you can see, is all these small little rules, it helps keep the property value higher, and it actually increases the property values as well if you have a great HOA and you are taking care of the neighborhood. So should you buy a home in a HOA in Arizona? Well, that's really up to you. You do have extra costs going out of your pocket, out of your checking account, out of your savings account per month to live in an HOA, but you get some value as well back, future value, and you get some present value that your neighbor can do whatever they want with their house as far as color choice, yard maintenance, etc. And honestly, I truly do love living in an HOA, just for the fact that I don't have to be in other people's business and telling them like, hey, don't park your vehicles in my front yard. Why did you paint your house pink? I mean, what were you thinking? Why did you build a 3-story garage in the back? Why did you build a 3-story condo in the back? You know, etc. So it just makes it more relaxing to me that I don't have to worry about other people in my neighborhood, and then I know that they just can't go and change their floor plan without submitting an architectural committee draft and the plans to the HOA board, and then them coming over and seeing if they can approve it. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Once again, I am Victor Huerta, local real estate agent here in Phoenix, Arizona. Smash that subscribe button, click that bell to get notified when we drop the next video, and then you can decide whether you want to live in an HOA or not. We'll see you on the next video.